So what are we doing today? We're doing rain today. So I'm going to be inside doing a little baking, a few Christmas baked goods. And I'll take you along for my secret recipe of Mandelbrot. Mandel meaning almond and brat meaning bread. It's a German thing. So the first step, I toast what would normally be almonds, but because I'm in Texas now, I just use pecans because I have pecan trees, and I shelled all these pecans. So the first step, I just roast the pecans up, or whatever nut that you have. Normally, because mandel means almond, it's shaved almonds. So you have to watch this step a little carefully, because if you let it go, you'll wind up burning your nuts. And if you have nut allergies, actually sometimes roasting them actually changes the cis to a trans configuration in the nut, and you may or may not be allergic to that, because I know that I'm allergic to raw peanuts, but I'm not allergic to peanut butter. But what I was trying to get at is, if you are allergic to nuts, you can just go ahead and leave them out, because the roll that I make, and sometimes it comes out in cookie form, tastes good without them, and obviously if you're allergic to nuts, you don't want them in there. So I just, kind of watch this step, because I've been known to scorch them a little bit, and that doesn't add to the flavor of the dessert type bread that I'm making here. So once your cup of nuts, which I forgot to mention is about a cup, because I do a lot of my baking by just by look, by what looks right to me. So I'm not the best at sharing my secrets, because I just know what I do. So the recipe actually calls for lemon rind, but I happen to have eaten part of an orange, so I'm just going to zest the orange, and it just kind of gives it like a little pick-me-up, little fresh taste to the mild dessert flavor of the bread or cookie. So I just did about that much of the rind, or you really can just play it by ear, in all honesty. So my substitution was an orange for a lemon, because I didn't have a lemon handy, because I can't eat lemons, but I can certainly eat oranges. And then there's a cup of sugar. So I'll just scoop out a cup of sugar. Now the end result is a really mildly sweet dessert. So it's more of a European flavor, so to speak. It's not like the Texans pecan pie that's incredibly sweet. So, and then it calls for 2 3/4 cups of flour, and eventually I'll be using wheat berries and grinding them, but I'm waiting for my Christmas present to myself to actually get the grinder, and I know a wheat farmer, so I'm going to try to buy some of the wheat berries off of them, because they actually ship it right to a bread maker down in Dallas. So I know specifically that it must be good quality wheat berries. And then, because it's almond, you can use almond extract or vanilla extract, whatever you have. And I just do it by sight. I just pour, I'm actually a little bit heavy usually on the extracts, because I really like the flavor that it infuses to the bread. And then it calls for 4 teaspoons of baking powder, but I just kind of put it in there, and that looks about right to me. So I'm just saying what it is for you, since I know you've never cooked it before. And then 3 eggs. And I get my eggs, since the raccoon took out all my chickens, I get my eggs from the gal down the street, who's gracious enough to give me, many times she gives me duck eggs, which are bind, because you're using the egg to bind better even than chicken eggs, but these happen to be chicken eggs. So as you can tell, I kind of do a lot of substitution on things. And then I mix these all together, and then I kind of look to see what it actually looks like. And I'll give you an example of what it should look like, and if it doesn't look correct, I just add a little oil, because I try to keep down the amount of fat that I put in my baked goods, but sometimes you just need that added oil just to make it all go together. And some of the oil will come from the nuts that I'll put in this mixture. So because my trailer's so small, I pretty much have to do like one bowl baking and one pan cooking, because otherwise you just have stuff all over the place. But I love baking. I find that it's a stress relief, and for Christmas, like, people really enjoy getting homemade baked goods. They appreciate the time that it takes, and you know, also when you introduce them to something new. Most people aren't familiar with mandelbrot, which I usually just say it's like an Italian biscotti. So I used to actually sell this at the farmer's market, not so much because I wanted to be a baker, but because I wanted to have a sample tray and bring them over to my table so I could sell my beef in bulk, like a half a cow or a quarter cow. So amazingly, I would sell out of my biscotti rolls, or not biscotti rolls, but mandelbrot, and I would just tell the people that tasted it that it was a German biscotti, because they could identify with that. So now I'll just go ahead and pour in my nuts with the oil that got that kind of toasted taste. That's one heavy frying pan. So it's kind of nice baking with the background of the noise of the rain. I hope that it doesn't interfere too much with the quality of the video. And basically you want the consistency of this like cookie dough. And what you're supposed to do is, you know, roll it out into a roll, bake it at 350 for about 45 minutes, and then cut it into like angled slices. But I kind of have forgone, I don't do that anymore. It just seems like it's a lot of work, and sometimes it crumbles and then you ruin like the whole wedge, and then I wind up eating it. And so what I do is I just go ahead and make them into small little rolls, which wind up being like some really large cookies, like kind of 4 cookies in one. And that works out well. People don't seem to know the difference anyway, because this is kind of unique. I mean, it's not the average recipe for a dessert found here in Texas. So, you know, ignorance is bliss, as they say. So this is the consistency. So it like pretty much sticks to my spoon, and I'll just like, you know, put some flour in my hands and I'll roll them into rolls, and you know, you're looking for this consistency. So, I mean, if it's too runny, just add a little flour to it. And if it's not runny enough, add a little oil to it. Or maybe another egg, because it tends to work as a binding ingredient. So there you have it. Well, while the desserts are baking, we can take a look at one of the cows out there grazing in the middle of the rainstorm. The rye grass has come up. It volunteered, although I did seed some of my pasture so that it could retain more water in it, as I always seem to have an erosion problem on my property. So the cow's enjoying the new fresh green ryegrass that comes up in late October and November. So this is the end result of them baking properly. As you can see, they're mildly toasted on the top and bottom. And if you like a softer inside, you just bake it for a little bit less time.